Well, greetings from Kampala, Uganda. Welcome to yet another episode on our YouTube channel, CK Sports, where we talk about everything Ugandan football, where we talk about everything African football. Just a polite reminder to subscribe to our channel if you are yet to subscribe, but also appreciate all the comments, we appreciate all the likes, and we appreciate all the shares that you've been giving us for those of you who have been following our work. Now, in this episode of CK Sports, we shall be looking at the just concluded two games of the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers, where the Uganda Cranes were playing against Guinea, but earlier on they had played against Mozambique. We all have different segments about Uganda's chances of qualifying for the World Cup next year in the USA, Mexico, and Canada. We have our own assignments, of course. We shall be sharing those, but also we shall be talking about all the other games that rotated around the fixture. I won't be doing this alone. Of course, I am joined by Mr. Shafiq Chiaga, a man who is doing whatever it takes to see that Allah answers all his prayers in this month of Ramadan. But Shafiq, greetings, and how have you been?
Greetings, Clive, and the viewers. I don't know how you got here, but it only proves one thing, that you're a very good swimmer.
No. Actually, I've been lucky that the places I passed through to get here, at least the water was not that stubborn. And it wasn't very early in the morning. It is those people who leave their homes at 5 or 6 a.m. in the morning that had to swim to work.
Yeah,
something that is not funny, but for some reason we find ourselves laughing about things that actually people are sad about.
Because it's anyway. That's what makes us Ugandan, and it's what we enjoy about a very beautiful country, the Pearl of Africa.
I was watching not actually the entire show, a clip of a show. Our colleague Simon Kagwanja, he had a guest from the NRM just yesterday. And he told him, his introductory remarks were like, "You are late, despite having a lead car." And the defense of the guest was, "Yes, I have a lead car, but the lead car does not clear the water."
And he told him, eventually, we are now on equal footing.
We are now on equal footing. But yes, if you're just wondering what's going on, lately it has been raining in Kampala, Uganda, Kampala particularly. And yes, the waters have not been very generous to us, especially those people who leave their houses very early to go to work. And we sympathize with all those.
Pun intended, because we've barely had water in the country. And now we do have a lot of water.
So and we've been having a lot of sunshine lately.
Yeah, nature is playing a very cruel joke on us.
But we also sympathize with all those victims. People have lost lives.
Yeah.
People's businesses have been affected in one way or the other. And in this current economy, it will take a lot for people's businesses to recover, and probably for them to find their footing again. According to the people who foresee what is coming in the future, they are telling us that we need to brace ourselves for the next 2 months. So that means the next 2 months we are going to be having a lot of rain. So
we might just see more Michael Phelps come out of Uganda.
Something close to that. But Shafiq, probably something that we should have done immediately after the Uganda Cranes played against Guinea at the Mandela National Stadium. We weren't able to do so because you were very sick, under the weather. You had to follow the game from home, but nonetheless, we are here. And we are here to talk about the Uganda Cranes.
Yeah.
Of course, the 2026 World Cup dream, some people think it wasn't there from the start. Some people think it is very much still alive. We managed to put up probably one of our fair performances against Guinea at Mandela National Stadium. A game you thought that we should have won by a bigger margin, but we're only able to win it with a 1-0. Allan Okello free kick in the 5th minute. At the time he scored, you thought maybe we should have been at 2-0 up by then, but it wasn't the case. Eventually we held on. We walked away with the goal and the 3 point, a result that puts us in the 4th position on the log, the 3rd win of the campaign on 9 points. That is 6 points behind table leaders Algeria, and of course 3 points behind Mozambique, who are in a second position. But your general assessment of Cranes' performance, should we start with Mozambique or Guinea?
And generally, I think it's both good and bad, because from the start against Mozambique, it's a game that was way below the expectations.
Yeah, true.
Anyway, the expectations of a true Ugandan, because for some who had really seen what Mozambique had done over the last couple of months, then you'd expect that it was going to be a hard game for the Cranes, especially playing away. Never mind the fact that it was played at a neutral venue
in Egypt.
Egypt, but for any African nation traveling away from your home support and having to prepare for all the logistics away from home, I don't know why it's still something hard for teams to win away. It's just something that rarely happens in Africa.
Few teams have the privilege or birthright or license to travel and pick points away from home comfortably.
Exactly, and over the years we've realized that Uganda is among those that don't have that license to win away.
Well, the tide is changing.
Yeah, we've had a couple of decent performances, not results, and I think the Mozambique one was a new low, and that alone gives us a very good precursor to what happened at Namboole, because the expectation after the Mozambique game was really low. People thought, okay, Guinea is another hard game, another team that probably will come here and pick up.
Especially since they had beaten us 2-1 in these very qualifiers. It should have been our first or second game of the qualifiers.
First game of the qualifiers. So all that played to people probably appreciating the kind of performance we had at Namboole on Tuesday. More and more. Never mind the fact that I also still think that it was a very good performance by our standards, and yeah, I give credit to the team for the kind of performance.
Well, before we discuss the game, the Guinea game, Mozambique beats Uganda 3-1, a result that I feel was aided by us. If we had probably done a few things right, it shouldn't probably have been the case. Does that explain their next fixture, where they are playing against Algeria and they lose 5-1?
No one saw that coming. No one saw Mozambique losing to Algeria 5-1, because they were so good against us.
Were they so good, or we made them look good?
Okay, we gave them very many good chances for them to make the scoreline look that big. But still, over the 90 minutes, they competed more than the Cranes. So, and after 4 games, they had collected 12 points. So everyone thought, well, this is a Mozambique that is probably in good form and will give Algeria a bit of a closer run. But I was also dumbfounded that it was never that close. Algeria just streamrolling past them, 5-0. It's a reflection of how confident Algeria are in this group and the kind of opponents that they are facing. That they know that every time they get to meet one of the 2 or 3 teams that can put up a challenge, then they can go ahead and get that result.
Of course, from the onset, Algeria were going to be the favorites in this group. Remember, only one group win against qualify for the World Cup, and if I was to pick that one team, it was always going to be Algeria. But of course, fast forward to the 25th of March, the game we played at the Mandela National Stadium, and the debate had started from the previous game. Of course, we knew we weren't going to have Dennis Omedi, because he was red carded in that game against Mozambique as early as the 36 minutes. We talk about the goals we considered, but we forget that we went into the break a man down.
Yeah, I think because it didn't affect us really. It didn't affect the result, I mean, because after Dennis Omedi was sent off, then the Cranes didn't concede more. Yes, we might have sat back a little bit and protected protected the result as it was at that point. So Mozambique didn't have really an opportunity to add to the scoreline by then.
Of course, like we did say, then we come into that game. We knew we weren't going to have Dennis Omedi, but luckily for Paul Put and the team, Rogers Kasim was returning from suspension because he also missed the game against Mozambique because he was serving a suspension. And of course, as a build-up to that game, the captain Halid Awucho pulled a muscle or got a knock during one of the warm-up sessions, and there was debate whether he would be available or he won't be available. Of course, we got inside information within the camp that the technical team was debating between Ronald Sechiganda or Toby Sibik to play in that position. Actually, they tried both players alongside Kenneth Semakula, who should be playing alongside Kenneth Semakula and Allan Okello in midfield. Eventually, they decided that they will be settling with Ronald Sechiganda, Kenneth Semakula, and Allan Okello. The other probably, personally, I didn't see coming, and many people didn't see coming. We thought that to keep on building the confidence of Ismail Watenga, he would return in goal. Actually, when you look at the preparations for the game against Guinea, the picture that was painted was that Ismail Watenga was going to start in goal. And most of the probable lineups actually had him start in goal. And of course, when the lineup eventually came out, we realized that it was Nafian Alliance that started in goal for Uganda. The other was the decision to start Allan Okello and Travis Mutiaba. Of course, they had played together in the past, but and they didn't look so good, and it only lasted for 45 minutes. This time around, they looked better than they looked the first time they played together. One of them gets to win the free kick that the other gets to convert. And for starters, your general overview of the lineup that Paul put named the other day before we look at the performance.
I knew it was going to be a tough decision, bringing back Ismail Watenga, especially after the decision was made at halftime against Mozambique that he shouldn't return. We all can understand why that was made, because he had one of the bad days in office for him. He's still a very good goalkeeper, still young, still has to grow, and I think we all realize that the goalkeeping position for the Cranes has not been the same. The challenge has been there
ever since Dennis Onyango retired.
Yeah, ever since Dennis Onyango retired, the challenge has been there for many during that time, but not many have really stood up to the challenge. But also because Dennis Onyango had played for what, 10, 15 years as the #1 goalkeeper for Cranes, so it was never going to be easy for anyone.
The only time he missed games was because he was injured, actually.
Exactly. So it was never going to be easy anyway for anyone. So and for Watenga, when he was hauled off, I still fear for what his Cranes career is. I know he will.
There's still ample time between now and September, the next time when the qualifiers come around. So.
Yeah, but you see, Clive, we've it's like it's a repetitive pattern. I'm not putting the criticism on the coaches or what, because the decision eventually had to be made. But it's something that if we are to look back recently, and what experience has taught us, is that not so many do survive such things, especially with the Cranes. Yes, they've been moments
Jamal
where
Salim, Tadeo Ranga, now Ismail Watenga. The list is actually long.
Ismail Watenga, there's Charles Lukwago in there as well, especially for the goalkeeping role. There's Charles Lukwago, who we've tried. Ismail Watenga, we tried him, dropped him for like a year, then we just returned to him.
We had Jamal Salim for some time.
Salim Jamal as well for some time, until that mistake.
Actually, Jamal Salim, I think, if I'm not mistaken, started as the first choice for Uganda in these qualifiers.
Exactly.
If you remember.
Exactly. So then it's you get to worry what exactly we are trying to achieve. But then as well, for someone who's watched Watenga, then you get a bit scared for him. What's the next decision that the coaches will be making regards his career? But
Safi, going into the lineup, your thoughts when the first time you saw the lineup that Paul Put had named?
Okay, I was. There were so many things that caught me off guard. First of all was Elio Kapuladosi being named captain. I did see that
because I saw Bevis Mugabe is the third in line after Khalid Aucho, Ismail Watenga, then it is Bevis Mugabe.
So it also caught me off guard, because this is a lad who's played less than 5 games for the Cranes. He's been involved with the group for 18 months at most. So that caught me off guard. I was excited to see how...
Not actually 18 months. He hasn't made a year.
Exactly.
Because remember, it started with the qualifiers when we were returning to Namboole. Those were those the AFCON qualifiers?
That was last season.
No, they were still the World Cup qualifiers when we played against Algeria, Botswana. If you remember those games that we played at Namboole.
That was actually
last year,
around April, May, around that period.
Let me
so I was surprised, but still, eventually at the end of the 90 minutes, I was proud that indeed he had played like a very good leader, and I think for us, we can be scared all we want.
Confronted the referee when there was need to confront the referee.
Exactly.
The referee
he was very vocal.
Kept his players in check when there was need to keep the players in check. So I remember there was a time when I think we should have won a foul, should have been against Sechigan and stuff like that. The referee didn't call the foul. Now the ball goes out. Should have been if a goal kick or throw in, and all the players come and surround the referee, including the Allions. And I remember, because I was also following the game on TV, actually Elio Caprodosi pushed Allions away. Like, you have no business here. I'll handle this. So outside that, but even the way he conducted himself for the 90 minutes, you thought
I think he's a calm, reassuring person in terms of his demeanor. But the coaches obviously know better in terms of how he speaks to the rest, how he relates to all the players, and all those things come into play when a coach is making a decision like that. But credit to him, because I also felt he didn't have a very good game against Mozambique.
Who did? No one did.
He came back well. Then most of the people are really surprised by Allan Okello and Travis Mutiaba. I knew Paul put had to make changes, especially with the forward line, because Jude Semugabi was nowhere near the levels that he had shown during the AFCON qualifiers, especially in those games against South Sudan. He didn't have a good game, so I knew he had to make a choice. Allan Okello, obviously, for what he had shown us in that first game against Mozambique, he had to remain in that team. So bringing in Travis Mutiaba, again, it's another decision that can be made. I wasn't really fascinated by it. The other decision that really I thought, could we have handled this a little bit different, was the event that Khalid Aucho was left out of the squad. Probably that is when we needed Tadeo Ranga, but he was not around.
But I mean, we had Sechigana, who has not looked bad the few times he has played for the national team.
Yeah, but Sechigana is not that holding midfielder who will know that will tackle loads to win.
Well, you don't need
back.
to tackle anyone to win possession.
Yeah, but you see, you need
How
different
did he
characteristics. Sechiganda, very well. As a sort of that 8, I think he fared very well. Even Kenneth Semakula, I know it helps that they played together at AC Villa.
Because personally, I believe for me, it is because of those two that also the defense looked comfortable and didn't get into any kind of trouble.
Yeah, because they do have a bit of chemistry. Remember, they played together at AC Villa during that title-winning season. So it also helped their chemistry. The other decision as well came later on in the match when Elvis Bomono was went off injured. Timothy Awani playing at right back. I didn't think he could play that well at right back. I mean, he
almost caused trouble in the final third.
Yeah, he knew how to time his runs going forward and then dropping back. I thought when he was coming on, probably there was going to be a change in defense with Bevis switching to right back and Awani to left back.
And of course, Allan Okello does what Allan Okello gets to do. Before we even talk about the goal that Allan Okello scored, the chances that we missed. I don't want to use the word squandered, but the chances that we missed. I thought Rogers Mato in the first half looked very brilliant, especially in the final third. His patience, his decision to try and probably think where I need to put the ball. I'm not about the first 45 minutes, not the second stanza, the first 45 minutes. I thought there was an opportunity where I thought Elvis Bomono should have found the back of the net. He was just a few seconds late. I think Mozambique, rather Guinea, knew how dangerous Shaban Mohammed was going to be. They kept him in check throughout, because I thought all those balls that were lingering around, Shaban Mohammed was the kind of person who would, in one or the other, find the back of the net. But the Guinea defense kept in check throughout. But you thought we created a couple of chances that we should have scored before we eventually found the back of the net through a set piece.
We created very many decent chances. Some of them were half decent, really. But I mean, for a Cranes that's really struggled to create chances and even score goals, that is the other key point that we can't take away from it. I think it comes from the fact that the boys are starting to understand what the coach really wants, how he wants them to play, how he wants them to utilize their weapons that they have, because Rogers Mato is a very fast forward. I don't think many people realize that. And Paul Put has indeed used these guys. I think he's made sure that the message comes across that you need to use the weapons that you have. If you have the pace, use the pace. And it's his front three has always been consistent. There's been one consistent thing about his front threes. It's the pace that they do carry, especially running in behind. We are utilizing those things quite well. It's a bonus and it's a good thing for the Cranes. Most of the chances, I don't think we do have any that you look back and think that should have counted for a goal. That is why I say we created decent chances. But also I think we were helped by the fact that Guinea didn't really come to compete. And I get the reaction and the comment from their lead striker, Sehu Girassi, when he said that
we deserve to lose.
They deserve to lose. Indeed, Guinea deserved to lose on the day. Probably 1-0 gives it a bit more decency, but the frustration, I think, comes from there, that the Cranes created very many decent chances, didn't look to make them even better or to utilize them to the maximum.
Then the goal, Allan Okello, of course, scores a free kick that is won by Travis Mutiaba, a move that you thought that still on any other day probably would have resulted into another clear-cut chance. Only God knows what would have happened thereafter. Everybody kept on saying it was poor goalkeeping and stuff like that, but those are excuses that should be given by the Guinean public. For us, we got an opportunity. Allan Okello gets to score it, and that has actually been the kind of season that he has had throughout, even at club level.
The threat that Travis Mutiaba carries is that his ability to carry the ball at speed in the middle of the park.
And you want to see him do that more often.
Exactly. But I don't think, apart from that, we saw him do it again during the game. So it's that threat that he has, it's that weapon that he carries with him, and eventually got us the moment. Okello steps up. He's a man in red hot form. I mean, at the moment, he scored 14 goals in the league.
Already for Vipers, yeah.
I think could go to around 16 in all competitions for Vipers. So he's a man in form, and the Cranes had to rely on him for a bit of magic. He produced it, and just helps to build his stock up as the current playmaker for the Uganda Cranes, and someone who can pop up with the moment. We've seen him do these things time and again. I don't think many who've seen him from the younger years will be surprised by it, because he has that in his locker. He's only just matured now, and he understands his game even more. The free kick, as you mentioned there, I think the goalkeeper should have done better. Should have done better because he got both hands on the ball. But again, huge credit to Okello, because he made him, he put him in a spot where he had to make that save. And if he doesn't make a very good save, then the ball ends up in the back of the net, and that's exactly what happened.
Before we talk about the goodness of Allan Okello, as we get to wind up, the question that I was asked even when still at Namboole, the last time the Uganda Cranes scored a free kick. And to be honest, I can't think of many, and I've just been thinking about it right now. And the closest that comes to mind is that afternoon when David Dubois scored a hat-trick. One of those was against Niger. One of those was a free kick. Now, I don't know whether that was the last time, or in between then and Tuesday when Okello scored that free kick, there are a couple of other free kicks for the Uganda Cranes.
I don't remember any.
Not even in the Sekafa, the Chan, the what?
Sekafa we did have one in 2019. I think Brighton Okani scored one. Was it Brighton Okani or Allan Okello? Scored one at Lugogo. I don't remember exactly the game, but we scored one at Lugogo. Where else?
Okay, at a big stage like the World Cup or AFCON qualifiers.
No, I think it goes
David
back
Obua.
to David Obua.
That is close to how many? 13, 14 years ago?
Didn't Mike Selmaga score one though?
Against who?
I think I remember. There's a Selmaga goal. Was it a free kick?
National team colors?
Yes. Was it a free kick? Was it a shot from range?
Anyway, the good enough, the people who usually watch our content, sometimes they have this info of their fingertips. So probably they can just refresh our minds in the comment section. But as we wind up, Shafiq, I think there shouldn't be any debate that Allan Okello currently is the best player in Uganda.
I mean, it shows.
There shouldn't be any debate. No, now, he is the best player in Uganda.
There shouldn't. He's been the best player in the country for the last 8 months. I know. Well, if I say 8 months could be long, but for the last, since the start of the season. Yeah, September to now.
Because he has not dipped.
It's around 8 months. He has not dipped. He's been in superb form for Vipers. He knows how to pick his moment. He's grown in terms of decision making. So he is the best player in the country. I know so many come close in the country. I think Abdul Karim Watambala has also raised his level a bit for Vipers. Saidi Mayanja had a moment there. He's dropped off recently.
Or Chipika UPC.
Yeah, auntie. So Chikulaga, where the rest are. Jude Mugabi probably
for
is
Chitara.
also
Yes,
for
he's been
Chitara,
outstanding.
and for the country he's also been outstanding. Patrick Kakande has also been quite consistent, even for AC Villa. He's another name that you can probably think about, because I know AC Villa are not in a good place at the moment, but he's been that motivation for them, and he's obviously kept the side going. So, but still, Allan Okello is heads and shoulders above them, above the rest.
Well, by the way, the qualifiers that don't return until September 3rd, we will be playing against Mozambique at Namboole. Then I think 2 or 3 days later, we play against Somalia. Both games are going to be at home. What I can't confirm, whether the games will be at Namboole or whether the games will be at the Hoima City Stadium. Because there is talk, this should be another episode altogether. There is talk that after the CHAN in August, Namboole is going to undergo the second phase of its renovation, going as we prepare for the 2027 Africa Cup of Nations. So there is talk that national team games might switch to the Hoima City Stadium,
so the Hoima City Stadium will be
the Hoima City Stadium is ready by then. No, its Namboole is for CHAN for August, but then there's talk that after August. So that's why I'm saying we can't confirm whether the next set of the qualifiers are going to be at Namboole or at the Hoima City Stadium. But tentatively, Namboole is the venue.
And you might want to imagine that, of course, with the Cranes playing in September, they wouldn't want to demolish the structure before those games. So that might be the other hold up. If the Hoima Stadium is
we should go
ready,
to Hoima. I mean, just go and spend an entire week in Hoima.
If the Hoima Stadium is ready, then
the people in Hoima want.
That is another plus, because I don't think the Cranes have played a game outside Kampala before.
No, they have not.
So that is another plus. That is another new venue that people get to experience the Cranes even
now.
More.
Because of that, the more reason I want the games to switch to Hoima. But that brings us to the end of our episode. You can let us know by the in the comment section. Is Allan Okello the best player in the country right now, or do you think there's another who is better? Shafiq and I think he is the best player in the country right now, and I'm sure so many people agree that he is the best player in the country right now. Thank you for being a part of this episode. The Qualifiers is my name, together with Shafiq Chiaga. In our next episode, we are going to be looking at all the groups the 9 groups of the 2026 the 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifiers, and we're sharing our views which African teams we think will be qualifying for the World Cup. Remember to subscribe if you've not subscribed. Remember to like. Also remember to leave a comment, but also share this video with some of those people that you feel will be enjoying this content.